This video is brought to you by patreon.com/worsttake. Get access to exclusive live streams and Discord servers, on-screen shoutouts, and early access to some videos when you join now. Help make sure that we can continue to make content like this by supporting the Patreon. Links are in the description down below. This morning, I put up a video talking about the problems I think the Cleveland Browns will have in 2024, because as good as I think this team is going to be, they're still a football team, and any football team that's ever existed is going to have problems. And I think that these are some problems that the Cleveland Browns will run into despite being a very good football team. So if that topic interests you and you haven't seen that video, make sure you check that video out. And the best way to check that video out is make sure you subscribe and notify so you don't miss a single drop that I do here. I drop frequently during the off season and even more frequently during the regular season. But now what I want to focus on is the Cleveland Browns that I'm ready to just push in all the chips on, right? And I'm not going to do the obvious ones. And when I say the obvious one, really speaking of the obvious one, right? Myles Garrett, we've been all in on Myles Garrett for years, so it wouldn't make sense to put him on a list like this, even though he's clearly somebody you would go all in on. Even somebody like Nick Chubb is somebody I wouldn't put on this list, because the issue with Nick Chubb is simply health. If he is healthy, then you're going to go all in on Nick Chubb because that's Nick Chubb. Right. I didn't want to put any of the obvious ones, even like a Deshaun Watson. We talk about Deshaun Watson enough. We know that there's a lot riding on his performance this year as far as his reputation goes. But there are some players that I do think I'm ready to go all in on, that maybe they didn't have the most eye-popping seasons, or maybe they had an injury-shortened season, or maybe they caught on late to their season, that I really think they're going to really give the Browns a lot of value during this 2024 season and be solutions for some of these problems. Za'Darius Smith is the first one that comes to my mind. Now, Za'Darius Smith is an interesting player to talk about, because depending on who you talk to and what they prioritize in their evaluations, either Za'Darius Smith was a rousing success or Za'Darius Smith was a slight disappointment. If you're talking to somebody who prioritizes traditional production numbers, so like sacks, tackles for loss, I think they're going to be lower on Za'Darius Smith than most people are. If you're talking to somebody who lives in advanced number world and really values those advanced numbers, I think you're going to find somebody who feels like Za'Darius Smith basically delivered on what you were expecting him to deliver on. It would have been nice if he was able to get the traditional production, but you got what you wanted out of him. And then there's people like me who are kind of in this middle ground with Za'Darius Smith, where I think that it's great that he has the pressure numbers and the win rate numbers that he does, but I do think he missed a lot of opportunities to be productive. I don't think he didn't get any sacks because of structure, right? Where Myles Garrett is somebody who doesn't get a ton of sacks because teams actively avoid him. It's not like Myles misses a ton of opportunities to get sacks. It's very rare when that happens. Za'Darius Smith probably should have had at least 9 sacks this year, but he just missed some obvious easy opportunities there. He really whiffed on a lot of tackle for loss attempts. I think he did not play as well as I think he wanted to. Yes, he was able to do the things that Za'Darius Smith has always been good at, which is winning at the line of scrimmage, especially against guards and tackles on the other side of the ball from a premium pass rusher like Myles Garrett. But where I do think Za'Darius struggled was finishing those plays, was playing cleanup, right? It's something that we ridicule TJ Watt for doing, but when you are on that right side of the line, cleaning up is a part of the job description for a edge rusher, right? Because there's supposed to be a lot of havoc and athleticism created off that left side. So the person on the right side, you really just want to be able to have him be a sure tackler so he can clean up on any sack opportunities. And that's an important role for the Browns to have on this defense. The more they can push guys behind the line of scrimmage. We know that the Browns defense last year was the hardest defense to get a first down on in running or passing situations. Third down, you name a situation that you would try to get a first down on, the Browns were difficult to get them on. And the hardest team to get a first down on in all of the NFL. So if you force teams back and back further behind the sticks more consistently, you can just imagine what that's going to do for the defensive production on this team. And I think Za'Darius had an opportunity to had a lot of opportunities to contribute to that last season, where he just did not capitalize on it. Some people think it was due to an injury. Some people think it's due to him just being in a new system, new environment. I just think he had an off year, to be honest with you. I think he'll have a much better year this year. I think he'll finish a lot of those opportunities. And I think he'll be a lot more comfortable playing off of Myles Garrett, because if you go back and you look at Za'Darius Smith's history, he's played with some good edge rushers. So like, he was always one of the top sack getters, or asked to be one of the more productive guys and havoc creators. That's just not going to be the case when it comes to somebody like Myles Garrett playing on the other side of you. You're going to be asked to clean up a lot. I think Obo Okoronkwo has actually done the best job out of any of these edge rushers. And if I had to give anybody an honorable mention on this list, it would be him, because what Obo Okoronkwo does is, yes, he's athletic, he creates havoc, he rushes with a lot of energy, but what he's really good at is cleaning up opportunities. And I think he got a lot of sacks last year, doing a good job cleaning up. And I know cleanup duty gets a bad stigma when we're talking about the Defensive Player of the Year award, right? When we're talking about that, yes, it does matter if your sacks happen in cleanup. But when we're talking about your second best edge rusher on a football team and what that player needs to do, clean up opportunities. And I think there's going to be a ton of them this year, because teams are going to be hell-bent on avoiding Myles Garrett for all 17 weeks instead of like the last 10 weeks of the season like last year. I think there's going to be a lot of opportunity for Za'Darius to clean up, and I think he's going to clean up quite well on that. Another guy, and look, these next two guys are guys who are going to benefit from just the presence of Myles Garrett. First off is JOK, and I think we've already started to see how he benefits from the presence of Myles Garrett. Teams are willing to kind of commit a lot of resources to Myles, which makes trying to land, let me find a good way to put this. It's hard to swat a fly when a gun is in your face. I hope that hits for y'all, but it hits for me. All right. And what I mean by that is that when you have a gun in your face, there is a immediate threat to your safety. So it's really hard to notice that fly that's buzzing around, because with Myles Garrett, he's such a intimidating presence for offensive linemen and offenses in general that you can't focus on doing all you can to get the fly, right? When you're trying to get a fly, you got newspaper, you might have a spray, you might have a light to try to attract it. Like, you can get the fly relatively with relative ease. But if somebody was pointing a gun in your face, you're not doing any of that shit. And that's what Myles Garrett is. That is a very odd way to explain it, but I do think it makes a ton of sense when you actually think about it. So that's why I think JOK and Grant Delpit are going to do extremely well this year, is because they are flies buzzing around the room, but the offense is going to be worried about that gun, right? And that gun is Myles Garrett. So it's easier for these guys to sneak around. It's easier for these guys to shoot gaps. And I think you saw a lot of this in the playoff game where JOK was dominant against Houston. I think you saw this in the Baltimore game where I thought Grant Delpit had a really good game, just kind of shooting gaps there. You see this in moments here, and I think the more time JOK gets and the more time JOK gets to understand how teams are going to cover and protect against Myles, the better JOK is going to be at taking advantage of those coverages and kind of attacking them in weak spots. Because when teams are as focused as they are on Myles, it opens up a lot of blind spots for a lot of good players to take advantage. And I think that's the beauty of the Browns defense, is that, yeah, they're capable of hitting you with the nuke. Right. And Myles Garrett going off for a game like he did against Indianapolis, that is the nuke. He can hit you with the nuke. But also, this Browns defense is more than capable of cutting you of getting you with 1,000 cuts, right? They have guys like Dalvin Tomlinson. They have guys like Za'Darius Smith, Denzel Ward, a great secondary, Martin Emerson. They have that capability too. And I think that's what makes and separates the Browns defense from most other teams. Let's talk about that secondary. Martin Emerson is the one player in there that I think is going to be an all-in candidate. I think he's going to make his first Pro Bowl. I thought he should have made it last year. I think there were maybe 2 games that kept him out of the Pro Bowl. If he had a better showing in Tennessee, if he had a better showing against the 49ers, I really think he would have made the Pro Bowl. But I think just him having up and down showings in those games kind of kept him out. Which is unfortunate because I do think Martin Emerson is one of the better young corners in all of football. I think he is going to progress. I think he's going to figure out a way to be just as physical as he wants to be, but understanding what referees will and won't call better, having a better feel for that. Just he's shown an ability to kind of be a film freak too when it comes to understanding the tendencies of the wide receivers he's going against. And I think that's going to improve as he gets more experience and more time under his belt. I think Martin Emerson is somebody you should be ready to go all in on. Now, my last 2 guys are offensive guys. David Njoku is somebody that I think we should all be willing to go all in on. And I don't think this is going to be a very tough sell. We all saw what David Njoku did last year. We all saw the type of game changer that David Njoku can be for this team. And here's where I think David Njoku is going to be important. If you watch the video I did earlier, I talked about how the Browns are going to be in a spot where I don't think they're going to be able to create a consistently, well, I think the Browns are going to be in a spot where consistency might be hard to come by in some moments for this offense, right? And you just need something to get it started off. And that's where David Njoku comes in hand, right? You could throw him a screen. You could throw him something in a flat. You could throw him something over the middle of the field. You could throw stick to David. Like you could do all of these really basic quick start things. And if Nick Chubb, let's say Nick Chubb takes a couple of weeks in the season to get going, or if Nick Chubb is ready to go day one, it just gives you another option to get 5 yards, because what David Njoku became critical for last year was he was the guy who could get you ahead of the sticks in drives, right? First down, you throw it to David Njoku, you can get 2nd and 5 or 3rd and 3 out of that drive, right? And that's where David Njoku became very important. The Browns are going to be trying to attack downfield. There's going to be times where they just need to get to a 2nd and 5 or 3rd and 5. And that's where David Njoku is going to be super critical for this team, because he also has that yak ability that not a lot of tight ends have. Amari Cooper is going to be super important for this team, because as much as they've added at the wide receiver position, he is the one consistent thing about the entire receiver room, in the entire receiving package, right? David Njoku, we talked about this. He has the tendency to drop some balls every once in a while. And while Amari Cooper will have a bad quarter or two every year, Amari Cooper, for the most part, extremely reliable. 3rd down, extremely reliable. You need a big play, extremely reliable. You need to get a drive started, extremely reliable. Great route runner, one of the best route runners in all of the NFL. His game has aged like fine wine. He's getting older, but he's posting the best seasons of his career so far. So there's no reason to really think that he's going to slow down anytime soon. And I think Amari probably going to be somebody you want to go all in on if you haven't already. But those are my guys. Let me know who your guys are down in the comment section below. Y'all have a great day. Have an even better night. Peace.